Welcome back. This is going to be a fun video to make. In this video, it's going to be all about Rio de Janeiro and on the topic of the dangerous addiction this city have on people, and also of why I can't quit from coming to this city. Now, the previous videos back in Colombia, I was trying to make myself like Colombia over Brazil, but to be honest, it didn't work. And in these upcoming video series, all in Brazil, you probably see why. But I honestly think with me, when it comes to traveling, I think what makes me like a country or city over another is solely based on the amount of people I know there, and also the experiences and the memories that I've had in a particular country and or city. That overall makes me like a city or country over another. The prices for like these sandwiches in New York is just ridiculous. $15 for a sandwich, and that's crazy. New York prices, but prices overall, especially in the US, is just getting out of hand. But just imagine $15 for a sandwich back in New York, and I'm going to a place where I can get a sandwich for $5 or less. And on top of that, all the ingredients are organic, so they don't have to put organic on the packaging. Well, okay, let's just go ahead and just jump into Rio de Janeiro, the most dangerous, addictive city in the country of Brazil. No other city, in my opinion, I'm pretty sure other people also who have went, have another city that they can say that can top Rio de Janeiro. Rio is just undefeated when it comes to being addictive. And personally, I'm going to talk about why I can't quit this city. The funny part about this whole trip is that I started not to come here. The plan was I had two options. I was going to revisit the country of Fiji instead of going to Suva. I was going to visit the city of Nadi, then go back to Suva. And my second trip option was to go to Asia. My entrance was going to be to Japan for maybe less than a week, because Japan weather in November and December is similar to the east coast of the US, which is very cold. And if you know, I don't like anything dealing with cold. I don't like ice cubes. I don't like snow. I don't like snowman. I don't like anything dealing with cold. So I was going to go to Japan for less than a week, and then from there ease my way down to southeast countries that I have not visited before in Asia. That was my second option. But Rio is so damn addictive. Look at me. I'm back here at the airport in Rio de Janeiro, which I haven't been, I think, in a while. But oh man, the Rio trap. Once you go, all I can say is that, man, the city's intoxicating, man. It's like once you're there, once you're here in Rio, you're already planning your trip of when you're gonna go again. You're not thinking about the present. You're already in Rio. You're not even thinking about that. You're thinking about, okay, when I'm gonna come back. That's what make Rio so dangerously addictive, more than other cities here in Brazil. Also, for myself, what makes Rio so impossible to stay away is that a lot of travelers don't talk about Rio de Janeiro is the city and it's the state. So a lot of people only talk about the city of Rio de Janeiro, but there's other cities in the huge state of Rio de Janeiro that some people explore and some never get a chance to because they're stuck in Rio de Janeiro, the city. But there's lots of other cities outside of Rio that you can explore and you may like. The only problem with that I can see is that the further you go from the tourist areas, it is very unlikely you're going to find somebody that speaks English or another language. They're speaking Portuguese. Therefore, your Portuguese skills got to be somewhat decent at a beginner's level, I would say, so you can have basic conversation. But if not, who cares? It's not about the language when you're traveling. It's about enjoying your time and that country. Oh yeah, if you don't have Google Fi, which allows you to travel the world, you don't need a SIM card, And if you do need a SIM card here in Rio de Janeiro, I hear some people complain about they can't find a SIM card without having a CPF. Well, as I said, I think in some older videos here in Brazil, you don't really need a CPF to get a SIM card. This is Brazil. If you got the money, they got the answer to your problem. So here at this airport, especially in Rio, I don't know about Sao Paulo, I don't know about the city of Manaus, because that's another entryway to Brazil if you're coming from the US, but most definitely here at GIG, Rio de Janeiro International Airport, the area you just saw me in, arrival coming to the airport, either you can talk to some of the taxi drivers, or most definitely it's going to be somebody that's going to walk up to you speaking English, because they're trying to, get some money, and they're going to tell you, do you need a SIM card, do you need a taxi? And if you do need that SIM, just say yeah, and they're going to provide you with a Claro or another company SIM card that will work. It's not a scam. They're making some money, and from them making money, you will have access to the SIM if you don't have Google Fi. But if you don't have Google Fi, Google what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's available to all countries. I highly doubt it, but I know in the US, including Canada and maybe some parts of Europe even, they have access to Google Fi, and it's a good investment. Especially if you like myself, you like to travel to different countries and you don't want to waste time and money trying to find a SIM, just get Google Fi. And oh yeah, just to make sure or make clear, the person that's going to come to you speaking English and probably asking you, do you need a SIM? This will be the same person that works along with the taxi drivers. So this isn't just some random Brazilian guy just chilling in the airport waiting for somebody to arrive. This is a guy that works alongside with the taxis, and if you do need a taxi, he's the person that's going to bring you from the inside outside to the taxi and maybe try to help put your luggage in the taxi. This is the guy I'm talking about, not a random guy. So don't be looking for some random guy. And usually these people, they're dressed in a certain way that okay, they work at the airport or they're working with the taxi drivers, but they're not a random guy. You don't want to walk up to a random Brazilian and say, hey, where's your SIM? And taxi is one way to get to your destination, but myself, hey, Uber's popular, so I'm here at the Uber stand waiting for the person to arrive and take me to my destination here in Rio. Just the jaw-dropping natural beauty of the city will make you want to return and just visit different sides of the city, because Rio is just that beautiful. Now, Rio is a city that is not modern at all. And I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but I've been to other beach cities around the world, and it's a mixture of modern and the past. With Rio, to me, it's just the past. When I think of, for example, Cape Town, South Africa, it's a beach city and it's very modern, especially when you compare it to here in Rio.
Fluminense? Não, pô, Flamengo, cara. Na praça ou...
Also, another comparison would be Singapore. Singapore is an island. They have a man-made beach. But if you look at the city, or if you've been to the city of Singapore, it's nothing colonial looking or old looking about Singapore. It's very, very modern and futuristic compared to here in Rio de Janeiro. That's nothing bad about how the look of Rio is. To me, like I mentioned, I do like the natural beauty of Rio de Janeiro, and to me it's just the endless amount of beaches. Also, what makes Rio so dangerously addictive is that you may not know this. I might be off. I'm gonna have to go back and edit this. Saturdays are usually my edit days on videos, but I think it's around 30% of people you might meet live in what you're seeing right here, which is called favelas. And 30% is a lot. Therefore, it's a high chance Wherever you are in your tourist location here in Rio, most likely it's gonna be Copacabana. I know how you are, especially the men. But there is a chance you might come across somebody that lives in a favela. And again, there's nothing wrong with this because the opportunities in Brazil, if you visit, you will see is not here. This is a big country, millions of people, not a lot of opportunities. So favelas would be like affordable housing in the US. The projects, the jacks, again, low income housing. But I wouldn't call it a ghetto. And if I have before, I have to take that back after just thinking about it. I wouldn't call it a ghetto. I would say that in the US, the ghetto is the ghetto. That's something that we have. In Brazil, I wouldn't call a favela a ghetto because favelas here in Brazil, you could just stay in your favela and really don't have to come out of it to do a lot of shopping. Opposed to the ghetto in the US, your ass gotta come out of that tight knit area, which is called the ghetto, and get things. Brazil, totally different. So it's not really the ghetto. I guess somebody from the US, that's what they would call it, because they really don't know how the favela operates. But it operates totally different than what a ghetto will be considered in the US. And I'll make a video about, again, I talked about crime, how dangerous it is, but not the addictive part, but how really dangerous it is, or it could be here in this country. But what I'm talking about, the favelas and the people you might meet, is that some of the most nicest people I have met live in different favelas here in Rio and also in other states. Because when you think of Rio, you think, okay, it's only favelas here. It's other states in this big country also that have favelas. And the people are usually very nice. And again, going back to the ghetto part, you're thinking about ghetto, okay, that means black people. Well, if you go to a favela in Brazil, you'll be amazingly surprised. It's black people, white people. I know on the west side of Rio, I even seen Japanese people. Not a lot, but I seen Japanese people selling like a pound, which is bread, and they have their store, but also they live in the favela. So it's a mixture of people, opposed to what a ghetto is in the US. It's just, they consider that like just black people, that's it, which is not true. But again, I'll make a separate video about that. But some of the nicest people you're going to meet, they live in a favela. When you come here to Rio de Janeiro International Airport, GIG, on the right hand side, because this is where I'm sitting at, you're going to see a lot of favelas. And some of the favelas you're going to pass by, I think one of them, the first one, if I'm not mistaken, if you're Brazilian or if you've been to Rio de Janeiro a lot of times, correct me, but I think the first favela is Villa Cruzeiro. And then after that, you're going to run across also favelas, a few being Complexo de Maré, and also the infamous, the most famous, the most dangerous, well, one of the most dangerous is Complexo do Alemão. Complexo do Alemão. Very dangerous. One of the favelas I visited back in, I think it was probably maybe 2011, with someone I had met online, and she was heavily into church, and I actually went to like a church gathering there for like almost like damn like working hours. I was there for like 8 hours, thinking to myself, is it worth all this? I was there for a long time. I'm just exaggerating the time, but I know it was more than like 3 or 4 hours. But I had went there by accident because at that time in 2011, I didn't even know where I was at. She just asked me, do I want to come to this little function? And, you know, I was thinking something else, and it turned out to be Complexo do Alemão. Was it worth the danger and the amount of time I spent at this church? Yeah, it was overall. But again, I didn't know where I was at the time, but I never went back again after I knew that it was Complexo do Alemão. So maybe at that time, Jesus, God, Buddha, the Santa helpers was on my side looking out for me, because I was stupid at that time. But I should have known that this was some favela, but I didn't know exactly the name of it. And I knew about Complexo do Alemão because I visited Brazil in 2008. If I'm not mistaken, 2009 was the first time I ever seen that people in a community, which was Complexo do Alemão, shot down a police helicopter And this is when I knew that criminals in the US have nothing on criminals here in Brazil. Criminals in Brazil really don't give a fuck about the police, whereas criminals in the US, they do. They're scared. They're scary. Brazilian criminals, not scary at all. But anyway, another video that's coming soon. But yes, Rio de Janeiro is the top city here in the country of Brazil, the one that gets mostly all the display, all the marketing, especially when it comes to the beaches here. Now there's other cities that I really like here in Brazil, and I think can match Rio de Janeiro, but the only thing that tops those cities is that if you want to come to Brazil, there's only a few amount of cities that we can enter as American citizens, foreigners, tourists, whatever you want to call us. So, for example, I like a city called Aracaju. I like a city called Maceió, but I can't fly from the U.S. straight there. I have to come to another city. Therefore, I usually come right here in Rio de Janeiro to get to the other cities that I like just as much as Rio de Janeiro, but Rio does top the rest. Any city you can think of, north or south of Brazil, cannot fuck with Rio. But as you have seen, I've made it to my apartment, and if you've been following me for a while, this apartment looks familiar, right? So you know the exact location where I'm at, correct? Or you still don't know, you're clueless of where I'm at. I'm in the infamous Barra da Tijuca. My favorite location here in Rio. Why? Is because I'm away from you foreigners, from you tourists. You asking me stupid questions of where the women at? Where the women at? That's all you just come here for? Just the women? Women is everywhere. If you have to ask me, that means you have problems. The women are everywhere. But anyways, I like coming here because to me it's more secluded. I feel like a local, and I'm treated more like a local because most foreigners do not want to come to this area. Because number one, it is far from the tourist zone, and most tourists, they want to stay in Ipanema, Copacabana, especially Copa. And as you should, because if you come here, you're not going to find a lot of people speaking English, number one. Number two is you're not close to anything. You're not close to the airport. You're close to shopping malls, but you're not close to the things that you probably really came here for. Wink, wink. Now I went to the grocery store because, you know, whenever I do get an apartment, I want to try at least make my own breakfast and lunch. Dinner, I can just go to a shopping mall or to the local restaurant downstairs and I can eat there. But breakfast and lunch, if I can, I want to prepare these things myself, because this is exactly what I would do if I was back home, minus going out for dinner. Because when I'm back home, I don't go out for dinner at all. I'm cooking every day, and I'm spending, like I said in previous videos, from 120 to 160 a week on groceries, buying the things you're seeing right now. And all this cost me around like maybe $55. And you know, all this stuff is organic. I might boil some okra and find like some ants or some bugs on it. That means that it's organic. If you see a bug or insect on your produce, especially if it's coming from the ground, just wash it off or eat it if you want some extra protein. But that just means that it's organic. If you don't see anything on it and it's extra shiny and it says U.S. product, you know, you got to be wary about that, because most likely it's sprayed with some type of chemical where bugs and insects avoid. So the question of why I spend so much money, especially in the U.S. for food, is because I'm getting all the produce that is organic, very healthy. Therefore, I pay a very hefty bill. That's why. But when I travel around the world, I can enjoy the same produce at a much cheaper cost, and the quality is very much better. So yeah, I'm very strict on myself. It's kind of like I treat my body like a Lamborghini. You can't put regular gas in a Lamborghini. You got to put the top quality gas in a Lamborghini. And when it comes to fixing that Lamborghini, you can't just go to a regular mechanic. So that's how I treat my body. I'm not putting any kind of bullshit in my body because I don't want to go and see doctors the rest of my life. So therefore, I try to eat as healthy as I can now so that when I do get older, I won't have the problems that my parents had or that my family members currently have. But I'm not so strict that when I do travel, I don't, maybe once in a while, every now and then, I might have a monster drink to help me get through my workout. Or I might have some potato chips after my workout. But for the majority of the foods that I'm eating and that you're seeing, it's going to be all healthy shit. And again, if I go with a friend and we're going out to eat, if she wants to eat fucking tacos or a burrito, then I'll indulge in the tacos and burrito, knowing that usually I don't even eat this type of food, especially on a regular basis. But again, it's the yin and the yang. It's all about balance. And yes, Rio de Janeiro is very dangerously addictive, especially for you first timers who plan to come here, not just solo, but even with your family. This city is very addictive because no matter where you come from in the world, especially if it's not from South America, if you're coming from North America, being the US and Canada, not talking about Mexico, but just the two, Canada and the US, you come here, very different culture, very different lifestyle. People here can have less than you, but be more happier than you. And this is just all based on the options that you have when you're in the country. If you don't have the extra options that other countries might have, then you have to be happy with what you have. And not just Brazil, but South Americans get this. And when I say Canada and the US, and I didn't say Mexico, because Mexico also, they get this. So if a Mexican visit Brazil, they're going to see some similar characteristics when it comes to the country and the culture. I would say the culture is more closer here than to the US or Canada. That being happy of what you have. You still have a life, you still have your 2 feet and 2 hands. Therefore, be happy. And that's what you'll see when you come to Brazil, unlike the US or Canada, where there is more of an abundance, more opportunities, but you will still find people unhappy, and they might do things to themselves that turns out to be not good. Opposed to here in Brazil, just South America in general, people not going to really harm themselves because they don't have a job or they lose their job. They're going to make best of what they have and just be happy. Go to the beach, get a beer, look at Bunda, Bunda's ass, just chill, relax, enjoy the life that you have. So yes, most people you meet here is very nice, very helpful. And again, some of the people you might meet, it's a possibility that they live in a favela, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you do choose as a foreigner, because you're not Brazilian, to do that and go with this person to the place that she lives, side note, always ask exactly where they live. And I guess upon, your intuition, whether or not to take that person up on going to exactly where they live. And I know some people may not like that you need a CPF, but hey, I don't have a CPF, and look what I have. I have a Claro chip. Now I do, like I mentioned, I have Google Fi, but with Google Fi, if I'm not mistaken, if you're out the country of the US for more than 90 consecutive days, then it stops working. So just in case that happens, that's why I do have the Claro. Before I meet my friend later tonight, I gotta eat. So I'm hungry, so I'm just boiling a potato. I got some green beans and also have some fish. So that's gonna consist, I guess, to get me by until we meet. But let's go back of why Rio de Janeiro, why Brazil is so dangerously addictive. Another reason is because of the endless summer, in my opinion. Now, it does get cold here in Rio, but it doesn't get cold like back home in the US. There's no snow, there's no snowmans, it's none of that here in Rio. But if you go to the next state over, Sao Paulo, in my opinion, Sao Paulo gets way more colder than Rio de Janeiro. And the further you go down south of Brazil, the colder it gets. I hate cold weather. Rio, the weather here, cold to them is not cold to me. And the rainy season, I don't really even count that. As long as it's warm and it's not cold, I don't really care about that. I just like the sun. I like the beaches. I like hot weather. I like the sweat. I like to wear sandals, no shirt. That's what I like, and you'll find that here in Rio. And again, Rio is the entry point, my entry point to Brazil, to get to the other cities I do like. So there's many reasons I've said throughout this video why I think Rio, why I think Brazil is just so damn addictive. You have the beaches here in Rio. You have the endless summer. So yeah, that's it. It's much more I could say, but if you've been to Brazil before, if you're curious, or if you just have any questions, put them down in the comment section below, because it might be like something about nightlife, the food and drink scene, which I don't drink alcohol, and it might be about samba or the festivals here that I might have missed. So put all that down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Peace out.